Welcome to Materials and Methods Matter. In this episode, we will explore and define everything you ever wanted to know about charcoal. There are basically two types of charcoal. We have vine and willow. We also have compressed. The basic difference between the willow charcoal and the compressed charcoal is the intensity. Willow charcoal is less intense than compressed charcoal. Also, willow charcoal does not adhere to the paper surface as well as compressed. So you have different mark making techniques with these two types of charcoal. The only difference between willow and vine charcoal is the source of the raw material. The raw material for vine charcoal comes from grapevines, and willow charcoal comes from a willow plant traditionally used for making baskets. This is an example of willow and the resulting charcoal sticks. Willow charcoal is available in different thicknesses. The degree of hardness is the same for each size. Shown here are thin, medium, and thick. A jumbo size is also available. On the other hand, vine charcoal is available in 4 degrees of hardness. From the left to the right, we have extra soft, soft, medium, and hard. Compressed charcoal is made from wood heated at a high temperature in a low oxygen atmosphere. The charred wood is then crushed into charcoal powder. The charcoal powder is mixed with a kaolin clay and gum mixture, resulting in different degrees of hardness. This mixture is then compressed into the shape useful for drawing. Compressed charcoal is available in pencils and blocks, and available in 3 to 4 degrees of hardness. Shown here is the soft, medium, and hard. Paper is an integral part of any drawing. Paper texture is also important. A textured paper will give you better results than a smooth paper. Here are the results using a medium tooth drawing paper as opposed to a heavy textured paper. A charcoal pencil or block can be used on its own for rendering and shading. But there are a bunch of tools that can be used in conjunction with charcoal for application, blending, correcting, and creating texture. In the following demonstrations, I'll use these tools and show how they are used. A dirty paper stump can also be used as a drawing tool for the initial sketch. Since it is dirty, it already contains charcoal on it, so you can use it to draw. I find this a real advantage, especially when we're doing a layout, especially in figure drawing, because you can establish some lines, you can establish your direction, and it's a great way to start a drawing. A paper stump is made of paper and is sharpened on both ends. I'm going to demonstrate the use of the paper stump in conjunction with the charcoal next to the previous demonstration which was just done with charcoal. When I know I'm going to be using a paper stump or I want a smoother texture, I start by adding a small amount of charcoal, and then I am going to smooth this out with the paper stump, and I will then add more charcoal at the end to finish it off. So I'm putting the charcoal at the shadow end, and of course using the paper stump, I find it best to work in a circular fashion. except when you get to your edges. And you can use the point to basically, now with the dirty stump, I can use this to create my soft lit edge. And we're going to add more charcoal down here at the bottom for the shadow. But this is going to be my lightest area, so what I'm going to do is just lightly brush the stump over that area. I'm going to add some more charcoal in here. I'm also going to add more to the shadow area. Give me a darker value. And then we'll go back and smooth this out with our paper stump. Here is a comparison of shading with charcoal pencil versus blending and shading with the paper stump. Soft sponges such as soft tools or makeup sponges can also be used to apply charcoal powder to the surface and used for blending. So if I dip this into some of my charcoal powder, I can then apply this in a very soft fashion. Great for doing underpainting, for breaking edges. Usually I use more than one of these simply because I want a lighter tool. I want to create a lighter value. So if I use this to fill in, I can then use other tools in conjunction with this. I very seldom use one tool all by itself. So once I get this laid in, another tool that is very useful with the use of charcoal is the kneaded eraser. Kneaded erasers come flat like this, and then you basically knead them. As the name implies, you need them to get them clean, but also to form them into shape. A kneaded eraser is used to basically lift the charcoal out. So for instance, I want a lighter value here, so I'm going to lift out this charcoal. Knead it to get it clean. Wipe out an area. I can then come back in with my tool and just soft redraw, creating my highlight. I can add some more value to this just by dabbing around it. And of course I can make this darker by adding more charcoal to it. So if I wanted to add more charcoal, I can do that. And create a darker value. And this is all done with a sponge. So to finish up, I'm just going to add a little more texture in here, smooth out my edges. I can use the kneaded eraser also to clean up around it. It's the great picker-upper. and then to get it clean, you just knead it until it turns nice and light gray. A leather chamois can also be used to apply charcoal to the surface and create a soft tonal background. When used with vine and willow charcoal, it is also used as an eraser to reduce the value. So by dipping my chamois into some charcoal, I can then create, you can see, a softer look. This is really good for creating backgrounds where you don't want a dark value. Of course, I could add a little more charcoal to it to create some value, but you could see that it really does control the amount. What you're doing is basically rubbing your charcoal into the paper surface. You can also do this with a paper towel, but it's less effective, but in a pinch it works. Other sponges, such as a wool sponge, can also be used to apply charcoal to the surface and create texture. So I've dipped my sponge into the charcoal, and now I can basically, in a circular fashion, create texture. Different sponges will give you different effect. If I want to clean this up a little, I can, of course, use my kneaded eraser again to create my circle. Put my circle back into if I want to create some darker value, I can just apply the charcoal. And create textures if you wanted to create textures, just taking the spinning the sponge. You could see that I could create all kinds of textures, different textures with this. A white charcoal pencil can be used in conjunction with charcoal to create a lighter value. But there's a difference when you're using a white paper versus a tone paper. On the left here I have a white paper, and if I use the white, it mixes with the charcoal and creates a gray. The contrast is, the light to dark, is not as great. It creates a highlight, but not a very bright highlight. On the other hand, over here where we have a gray paper and I add the highlight in, it's not mixing with the charcoal. It's actually leaving a white mark. The darker the paper, the brighter the highlight. Stay tuned for another episode for a demonstration on blending and building value with charcoal. Materials and Methods Matter was inspired by my book, Making Art, Materials and Techniques for Today's Artist. For more videos on Materials and Methods Matter, as well as lesson plans and other instructional videos, visit phalo.com.